Good morning, everybody. Welcome to What's the Tea? We've had a little sabbatical for a while, but we are back and we are back strong. I'm really thrilled to pick up this series again after a while. And my guests today are one of my favorite, if not my favorite, married couple in the
Aw.
industry. And I feel I have a little vested interest in that we can talk about in a while. But I want to introduce you to Jessie Hooker Bailey and Gilbert Bailey the second, correct?
Yeah.
Well, there's an
And
L, but yeah, that's right.
L Bailey the second,
Take it from here, too.
or as we call him, Gil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gil's better. Gil's way better.
And I'm they are both actors who have appeared at Milwaukee Rep. More to come on that, and have both been in multiple Broadway shows. So we're kind of thrilled to have them here today. Welcome, guys.
Wow.
Thanks. Thanks for
Good
having
to,
us, Mark.
Yeah, we have
good to
both been
see
in
you.
multiple shows.
Um,
That's interesting.
Yeah, we have.
Coming from New York City. And we're going to talk a little bit about, just what's been going on, what's coming up, hopes and dreams, and all of that sort of stuff. I want to kick off because it's such a cool story, and it's just like, as I say, I have a minor vested interest in in this. Tell us how you met.
Okay, I'll do it.
Oh, I knew he was going to take over it.
I'll
This
tell you
isn't
how we
me,
met.
because my story is different, but he's going to give,
I'm
go
going to tell
ahead.
you how we met, for real.
And I'll start sipping my tea.
All right, so the date was
Yeah, I just still want to say, what's the tea? This is my Christmas Carol mug that feels appropriate as we're about to stream the version that Jessie was in 2016 to the masses. 40,000 people will watch the 2016 production. And we just finished 2 nights ago filming our one-man version with Lee Ernst of Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol, which will be available for people to stream at $20, I think it is, on December 10th. So
I love that you're doing that. That's so
yeah,
fun.
yeah, it's been a trip. Just being in a room again, creating theater after 9 months. But cheers.
Cheers.
This is what British people do. They cheers. It's what
Cheers.
British people do. They talk about their problems and the world and issues and loves and life over a cup of tea.
I
And
love it.
so this is part of my culture, obviously, and sort of we're transferring it over. And of course, what's the tea is another expression for what's the dirt, what's the gossip.
Yeah. So,
So,
give it to him, Gil.
Okay,
Gil, tell us how you met.
all
Tell
right.
us.
The date was August 25th, 2014.
Wow, we're going back. He said
I had flown into Milwaukee because I was about to perform at Milwaukee Repertory Theater as Harpo in the production of The Color Purple. I was cast by Mark, and it was a wonderful thing. I was very excited. I had shipped my keyboard from home because I'm also a writer, and I couldn't go that long a time without having a keyboard. And it was coming to the hotel, and I had to warn the hotel
To
that
the
it was coming
Plaza.
to the Plaza, which is like my favorite hotel I've ever stayed in. On a yacht.
Seriously, we
Really
love the
it.
plaza.
But I had to tell them that there was a big keyboard coming so that they wouldn't be overwhelmed with 80 pounds of keyboard coming. So I let them know that it was coming, and as I was going from the front desk to walk back up the stairs to my room at the Plaza, this light just shone at the top of the staircase, and this haloed beauty was standing at the top of it, and it was like the Madonna had appeared, and angels started to sing, and the everything went slow motion.
He really does tell the story this same way
and
every time.
She came down the stairs, and she allowed me to give her a hug and say hello, and I asked her if she was in The Color Purple, and she lied at first and said she wasn't, and then
I thought I was being funny.
Yeah.
Because I was like, who else is going to be in The Color Purple?
It was great, and we met on a staircase, and after that hug, we found out that not only were we both in The Color Purple, but I was playing Harpo and she was playing Squeak. And in the show, those two start off together as a couple together, aka boyfriend, girlfriend. So during rehearsals, I started getting extra fresh and doing some things that probably wouldn't recommend you do unless
he was extra flirty or taking the choreography a little bit more. And I was. Obviously I gave consent.
Yeah, definitely make sure she likes you first before you start flirting. But I had started flirting in the capacity as Harpo, and then I started flirting as Gil, and she started flirting back as Jessie, and we became a couple as we did The Color Purple at Milwaukee Rap.
At Milwaukee Rap.
So
2014.
2014.
Wow. Listen, all of that is still permissible. It's just like when it's not warranted and not required, you know.
Yeah, I
was catching the vibes.
That's like, the bit we're addressing in our theaters now. You know, it's like when you ask the person out and they say no thank you, that you accept that and you move on, that you don't ask 23 times and kind of find out where they live, you know. So
well, I certainly didn't have to ask 23 times.
I said yes. I said yes pretty quickly.
But it was good because we really liked each other.
Where was the burger? Our first date, we went to Sobelman's, right? Is that the name?
That's the burger place.
So good.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
We think of Milwaukee's food a lot.
Milwaukee food is like, you know, people who come here and are discovering it for the first time. I mean, it's not a place you come to and you want to, you know, if you're looking to lose a few pounds.
Right. No.
Everything's cooked in butter or cheese, and
everything's
got that accompaniment with it, and beer, of course, and all the good stuff in life, you know. So
I really like to eat at the Nick though, and
the
Plaza, the Plaza,
the breakfast. We love the burritos.
At the Plaza.
My mother, who's now moved from the UK, lives in the Nick, so
really,
I'm pretty much there every day. Yeah.
Love the Nick. They have good French fries.
They got good burger.
So I know that this was your mastermind, Gil, but I want talk about the engagement, the proposal, because that was like another kind of great moment.
I'll do a little bit from my side. So I have all my posters on the wall, and in 2016 is when I did Christmas Carol. And so I was there around this time rehearsing, and we were going into tech, I think the day after Thanksgiving or a couple days after Thanksgiving. And Dan Kazemi, Mike Doe, a couple of us got an Airbnb in town to just stay in a big house and have a big Thanksgiving, and you were coming that night. So we were just cooking all day. It was really Dan cooking, and I was dancing around.
Let's be honest, Dan cooks, we all eat and dance around.
Exactly. And Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. I love it. I love waking up, watching the parade. You know, the Thanksgiving that we celebrate, not what it really means in the real world. But so I had no idea Gil was here. He was in tech for A Bronx Tale on Broadway, and he was being a mastermind. You knew about the whole thing.
What whole thing he didn't explain?
Yeah, that I was handing it over to you.
Oh, it's the thing.
I was saying where I was.
Oh, yeah. So she was doing. I was putting up A Bronx Tale, and it was Thanksgiving, and you know, we were actually in previews, so we were rehearsing in previews, and so, you know, it was looking like I wasn't going to be able to see her show, she wasn't going to be able to see my show, and we were going to do Thanksgiving from apart, and I had it set up that I was going to a friend's house and took whole videos of me baking cookies at this friend's house.
On Thanksgiving he was sending me videos that I believed were that day.
But the truth of it was I was on a plane from New York coming into Milwaukee to propose. And Mark knew, Dan knew, everybody who she was with at Thanksgiving.
Did you know when you cast me in Christmas Carol? It was
he told me, I don't know whether it was kind of later and because you didn't know if you were going to be able to get out of your show.
Yeah.
And they were going to let you go.
I was letting him write, this is the plan, this is going to happen as it was coming. Also, I didn't want to burden everybody. I didn't want
everyone have to keep the secret.
It was I gave everybody the information they needed to know, when they needed to know it, so that not to have to be burdened with it, with the secret. But then I worked it so that her mom was in town, and they came for Thanksgiving, and she thought she was meeting her mom, and they got to the hotel that we stayed at the plaza, and I had snuck in and left some things, and then told her to walk down that staircase in a
the staircase where we met.
The staircase where we met, and this time at the bottom of the staircase, I was standing there, and I think the light was shining off of the ring that I had, and we
he proposed, and I said yes.
Yeah.
And we all videoed it.
You all videoed it. What's crazy is we were at that house, at that Airbnb that night, eating Dan's food, and then I had to pick up my mom at the airport. That was a real thing.
Yep.
So then we pick my mom up, me and Dan pick my mom up at the airport, and we're just going to like drop our stuff off at the plaza and go back to the house, finish eating dessert. And so that's what was wild to me too. Obviously, like seeing him, I was like, I just kept being like, you're here. Like I couldn't believe that. And then seeing everyone, because I was like, I left you guys at the house. Like, how did you know about this? So it was really special, like totally full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good job, babe.
my little daughter was behaving very badly. She was 6 years
Ah,
old
Lily.
and just had one on her, like from the minute. And I'm like, if she screws this up,
I remember like her coming to the house and just being like, I'm not having it.
tell people what she said.
Happy Badsgiving. She didn't want to say Thanksgiving. It's my favorite thing. I think Kelly and I text each other that at these like around this time of year.
Yeah, it's become a favorite. I think we texted each other this Thanksgiving. Yeah. Tell us, that's a beautiful story, and I love that I was a minor cog in the wheel that inadvertently set the ball in motion. But, you know, kind of.
People ask us.
Go on.
Yeah, people ask us too, like, oh, you guys didn't know each other before you went to Milwaukee? Like, weren't you both in New York? And it was like, yeah, we were, but just doing completely different things. So truly, The Color Purple brought us together.
It's kind of amazing, isn't it, when you think about life choices like that, you know? It's almost like that movie Sliding Doors or whatever.
Yeah.
Like had, you know, you not been in that show together, would you have found your way to one another, or would it have been a different story? We never know, you know. But I think that's the crazy, amazing thing about life, and it's, you know, it's just we never know what things are where it's going to take us. I want to jump to the pandemic, because it's hard to sort of like not talk about it. You know, we are 9 months into the COVID pandemic. Where were you when, what were you guys both doing when the pandemic hit, when it became a thing like, oh, this is not just a 2-week hiatus?
Sure. I remember March 12th was when everything shut down. Because I only remember that because I had emails. I was in callbacks for a new show that's going to be coming to Broadway. So I was like looking at that material and working on that. And he was leaving for a show for Beetlejuice. And I just remember you getting a call and being like, yeah, they're shutting us down for 2 weeks. So we were kind of like, cool. In the way, like, it's kind of the rest we've all wanted. It's been cool that we've been so busy the last 3+ years, you know, doing the Broadway thing and hustling. But once you're in a show, you're like in that show, and only in that show, you know. You miss a lot of things, a lot of family things, a lot of events you can't go to. So it was just kind of nice to be like, oh, we're allowed to like sleep in, we're allowed to like relax, we're allowed to work on other things. And then
you just come out of Waitress at that point.
Yeah, I came out of Waitress on Broadway in January. So March, I had been like I had a month to like, oh, I went to see family, I was teaching a little bit. And then when I came back, it was like, all right, back on the grind, finding the next thing. And I was excited about the stuff I was going in for too, because it, you know, once you get your show and you have a couple credits, like then people start really taking you seriously. So I was excited that I was getting considered for more roles. And yeah, I was kind of felt like I've been saying to a couple of my friends, like I was on the up before everything just stopped. But it puts things into perspective on how like it matters, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, you know?
Yeah. And Gil, you were in Beetlejuice.
I was doing.
How far into that run were you in?
Oh, we were over a year. We were, we've been open for a bit then. I was doing Beetlejuice, and but we had been scheduled to close in June, at least to close at the Winter Garden in June. So we were, they were preparing for that. So I think everybody kind of thought that we would come back and do our closing there, and then whatever was next was next. But we ended up, it became kind of quick. It became kind of quickly like aware that we're not going to go back by June 6th, like just because of the thing of our show. So COVID actually ended up like closing the show. Whereas like COVID has closed shows now since, but like ours was like kind of in that first round of because of COVID, the show is not going to be able to come back. Because we had a set date where we had to leave the Winter Garden.
So already. It's like if you see Beetlejuice again, for sure it won't be at that theater.
Right.
So it was like
right. So we were leaving that. But you know, I mean, if I'm being honest about me, to be quite honest, like I don't care. I get, like, I know, like every I think we're all handling this in our own ways. And for me, you know, I've been transitioning and changing things about my career. I'm going to move in. So like even with like leaving Beetlejuice, I was ready. It was, you know, it was. I think there would have been a different catharsis of being able to finish at our date of June 6th that we thought we had. But I was already, but because June 6th was already coming,
Right.
March 12th was like, it wasn't like, oh my God, and we didn't think, we thought this show would last for forever. And, you know,
it's kind of like,
you know, we were all kind of already prepared for moving with the idea of it moving next. So for me, it was a little bit, I do know, you know, to be fair, there are other people in the cast that didn't take it so well. And I didn't take it great. You know, I mean, you know, it's
it was
not
still like,
things, but it was also like, for me personally, I was ready to transition and move on from that experience anyway. And so the COVID situation was kind of just, it kind of just sped up something by a couple months that was coming anyway. But still,
in that way.
But what made it kind of rough was, what I thought I was leaving was to go kind of get back on the horse of like being and thing. We weren't expecting to like Beetlejuice close and there not be anything else out there to pursue.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of COVID kind of stuff for us.
One of my previous guests on this was Rob McClure, the actor Rob McClure, and you know, he was obviously doing Mrs. Doubtfire and playing the title role, and I think got pulled like after the third or fourth preview.
Yeah,
So, you know, it was this whole process that they'd been on, where, you know, that thing where you're building a show,
right?
Which is sort of heartbreaking, because they'd done an out of town tryout,
Right.
then they come in and then they build this bond, and everybody's like ramping up to this, you know, the opening on Broadway, which is, you know, let's be honest, is always a huge thing. There's so much at stake.
Yes.
And you know, and then it was just like, it was like, go home. And you know, and I think, I'm not even sure if they were able to clean their, you know, their dressing tables, so they didn't know, you know, so I think it was a time when they had to
go back like a little bit later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so obviously our world was turned upside down. You know, we closed, I think we had about 3 shows running and 2 in rehearsal at the Rep. And I think, you know, we shut down within 2 or 3 days, everything from taking the shows that were on off. We were doing Dan Aguera's Eclipsed, and we decided to get the cast to stay one more day to film it without an audience, and we were able to do that. It actually worked out really well. You know, we had guests.
That's one of my favorite opening gambits in a show I've ever seen.
I love that.
Like this, the opening reveal. I'm just in case people haven't seen it, but like the reveal of, I think it's just one of the smoothest. When I saw it happen at the Golden, I was like, oh, that was so slick.
Yeah,
like it's one of my favorites.
Such a good play.
It's just simple. It's just simple theater. It's simple theater magic, right? It's like I don't say give it away, but it's just simple. It's one of those simple theater magic things that reminds you of like how amazing it is that your senses are being manipulated for the purpose of this story. It's just like really cool, and it's not even like a show about magic or anything. It's just very simple theater magic that's very effective and tells a whole story in just like one reveal. It's really cool.
Yeah. So we were shutting down 3 or 4 shows, you know, and then after that, and then obviously got into this mode of, oh, this is not, I think we had a kind of similar thing. It was like, oh, 2 weeks, a bit of a rest. We'll play hooky for 2 weeks.
Right.
And then come back. And obviously, and then, you know, the world then changed again, obviously, with the murder of George Floyd. Mm-hmm. And what, you know, many have been referring in the second pandemic, certainly for this country. So, you know, it's changed an already terrible situation into something else, even more serious, you know. So, you know, we are now like from that point, I can't remember exactly the timeline, but it feels like about 8 to 9 months from pandemic 1, 9 months into when the George Floyd incident came to light, you know, was so public. It feels like 7.5 months maybe from now. and here we are still in this moment. Obviously, a lot has changed in that time in terms of, our hopes for getting open again, gathering again. Obviously, we're all hoping these vaccinations are going to be good, as they say they are, that they are going, and that people are going to take them. And that maybe are some of our habits about we won't travel on an aircraft, perhaps, if we don't feel very well, or, we'll be judicious about when we come into rehearsal and what we do. When we we're going to wear a mask today because it's the right thing to do to look after each other. Can you, this is a huge thing, but can you just talk about, for both of you, a kind of, one of the highs and one of the, kind of all-time lows that have happened during this time? Where that, just to try, because there's so much in between, but just to give a snapshot of where you've been, especially as artists and people of color.
You want to go first? Or me?
Either way, yeah, go ahead. Go.
A low. There have been a couple, as you can imagine. We were good friends with Nick Cordero, who was in A Bronx Tale with Gil, and his passing was just really, we were holding out hope for a long time. That was just a roller coaster. I think so many of the country was on with Amanda, his wife. So that just made everything very real. And I think the death of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and just Breonna Taylor, seeing it for me was a big wake up call for me. I think, this is a whole nother tea time, but I think for my life, being biracial, having a white mom, black dad, there's been so much that we just wasn't discussed in my house. We were living in a rainbow world. Like, everybody loved everybody in my house, And even though I've had racist things happen to me in life, that, for whatever reason, I think it's because we had the time to sit back and watch it. For me, it was a wake-up call of, like, I am Black in America, and this affects me, and this hurts me, and that's why those things have been happening to me in my life, right? Or, like, this is a real thing. So, in a way, that was a low, but leads to highs, because I'm just super aware of things that I think I wanted to push away and say, that's not really happening. That's not that. That now it's like, no, that is that. And I need to make sure I'm using my voice in the best way I can, and to stay educated about myself and stand for myself and our family. But that was hard. Just watching things over and over and over again. And it's still hard. It's still, wavers, but it's led to awareness, which is good.
It's so interesting to hear you, and I wish we had more time to talk about that. Perhaps we will find another time or another forum to do that. Just to, it was so interesting for you to say that this had been a wake-up call for you.
Yeah.
Which I think is a point of view that we don't hear.
Of course.
That often. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, I have been living my life in ways for everyone else to be comfortable. I don't want to make waves. I was the Black friend in a lot of my community. I grew up around a lot of white people, and I know I'm the one Black friend to them. That I was always like, that doesn't offend me. Oh, you could say that. I get the joke. That, like, no, I'm going to start speaking up because that's not okay. So for me, it was those little things, and having conversations with some of my family members who are white and saying, like, hey, this is an issue. And that led into politics. High, obviously, for us is Biden-Harris winning. I'm really excited about it and relieved. Yeah, hopeful. And still foot on the gas, like, I'm really loving learning a lot about politics and how it affects us day to day. And looking forward to making choices in my life when it comes to who I want to work for and the stories I want to tell, and to make sure I'm working for people that really do have our backs, And a high, we got a dog, so that's a really fun.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting, people talking about, like, paying attention, particularly younger folks, paying attention to politics, paying attention to business, how money moves and how it changes hands and what it enables and what it doesn't, and who has it and who doesn't, because we are imbued with this notion from very young that that's nothing to do with us.
Exactly.
Like, we aren't taught, I mean, we're going a long way back for me now, but we're talking about, I wasn't taught business or, anything useful, like how to manage, what was an endowment mortgage? What was how did you manage a financial portfolio? And those things are, I kind of, not by, they're not by chance, they're deliberate.
Yes.
To keep us dumb in certain areas. And we have to use our own triggers to kind of educate ourselves and inform ourselves that actually the stock market does matter, because it does affect the loaf of bread and the pint of milk that you buy every day. So the gallon of gas. So I think those things for a lot of people, and I actually noticed that 67 people of the eligible electorate voted, which is that's unprecedented, I think.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented, and I think that's that. So we hop into like my lows.
Yeah.
For the thing is different, and I guess they're probably a little bit more existential. But like one of my big lows of this season was how much of a coming to moment George Floyd was in this thing, and how it took. I wrote a piece that was based off of my experience when Trayvon Martin. When that incident happened in Florida, not that incident, when that murder happened in Florida, and I'm just like, I'm that black guy who's been reading Stokely Carmichael since he was 14, and like who like me and Malcolm, or and so it's been, I think, at least even in this industry, I there are things that I in my small circles have been yelling and been screaming that I feel like, because it was a pandemic and because of this, like people are finally starting to be tuned to. And so that's like, part of that is a great thing. I'm like, I love that. Okay, great. We're finally now turned on and switched on. But one of the things that scares me is that when the intensity isn't so hot, and when you aren't focused, when you aren't stuck in your house because of COVID, are we going to be able to still fix these issues that remain, like in theater, with true representation and true things in the canon of theater, but in society, it scares me, and that was the low. Is like seeing so much, like so many people who like weren't paying attention before, all of a sudden pay attention, scared me a little bit, because it was like, wow, I don't know how long. I don't want COVID. I don't want the situation with COVID to last forever. But I also don't want you to lose this.
To stop paying attention.
So it's that weird duality of, if it takes a pandemic this bad, like not even we made it through the swine flu without anybody paying attention. It has to be COVID. It has to be this many millions of this people dying, and then we can pay attention to the fact that I'm glad that it's happening, and I'm because you need more people on to change a thing. But it was definitely a low for me this summer to see, where I was happy to see all the different things happening. It was a little bit of a low, because I was like, wow, it really took COVID to make people pay attention to things that have literally been in our face very, very, very like prevalently for at least for decades, if not specifically for the past 4 years, which was crazy. But even I mean, Trayvon, that was Obama. You know what I mean? Like Rodney King, that was like that. Like we've been here. Emmett Till, we've been here so many times. But I am heartened by the fact that people are paying attention. I just hope that we can like move through it. But it's also led to the highs, because this year I was very like involved with the Biden campaign and the effort to get Biden. I did a lot of work with an organization called Broadway for Biden. We were attached to the Biden campaign. We did a lot of work, and I met and a lot of young people, like kids, and Gen Z, and they make me so happy, because I feel like they're actually active and smart, and they get it. They get that, oh, you guys are trying to keep us dumb. Like that point you were making about why, like I tell it all the time, it's crazy to me that people, like, you graduate from high school or you turn 18 in this country, and all of a sudden you're free to make adult decisions, but you have no idea
how.
There is no reason why anybody should leave high school and not know what a mortgage is, or not know how to calculate annuities, to not know credit cards and how those work. But you don't, and we release you into society, and we call you an adult, and we allow you to, and then when 2008, when we have this big real estate financial crisis, we wonder why those things happen. But the kids now, I feel like they know. They're like, oh, you guys are trying to keep us dumb. Like they know it. Like and they're like, oh, that's not gonna happen. And now they also have the internet, which makes it so much easier for them to gain information. So
I think you have to understand the system to counter it.
You have to, that's the big problem.
Exactly.
It's like, no, and people don't. That was even the thing too. I think about the, like, that, but it was what will make you take the time to understand the system. So like we're just like now we're starting to have these conversations more in the thing about cops being able to have qualified immunity. Like they because of their job, anything they do can kind of just be qualified away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And things like that's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just have that. And the reason you can't just have that is because the black guy walking down the street who happens, like not every cop, but who happens to go be in front of the cop that has racial bias and racial aggressions and takes it out. There's no, we really can get
There's
in a situation.
No accountability.
There's no accountability for that. But in converse, there are plenty of criminals. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So there's plenty of times where that's not the circumstance. Nobody would argue that there aren't times where there's a police officer and a criminal and we're dealing with that. But what we can argue is that there are often times where it's not that situation and there's no accountability.
So what do we do about that?
When it is the criminal, they go to jail. When it's not the criminal, there's just no accountability and families are torn apart. And it's a trauma. It's a trauma, and it may be because I am a black man, but it's a trauma that I walk down the street wondering. I in 42nd Street, the cops be on the things like I feel safe with the cops that are in Times Square. You do, but when I walk past them, they grip their guns tighter and stare at me because they don't know I'm on Broadway. Right now, I'm kind of just one of the black guys walking in the district, and some of them do carry that aggression. Not every cop, not things, but some of them do carry that aggression, and some of them do track me as I walk by, and some of them do as I'm walking to do Beetlejuice.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? As I'm walking to A Bronx Tale, as I'm walking to go perform at Book of Mormon. I've been on Broadway and I've been down there, but they don't see me as
in
like the
way.
Broadway actor. I'm a black guy down there when I walk through.
I think the training and I think the notion of this defunding the police, people have got the wrong idea about it. Like,
100%.
honestly, they think that we want to get rid of the police, and nobody wants to do that. I think what we're talking about is training, and we've all seen situations where things have been handled really badly, and I think it must be very difficult to be a good cop. I think it's for all the cops of the cops that are people of color, they're dealing with very myriad complex issues from
100%.
family, from friends, peer groups.
But let's not hop on that so quick because we do that too. And there's a saying in the black community that all skin folk aren't kinfolk. Some of the worst police I've ever dealt with have been black. So it's not like there's a fraternity within there, like a good cop, a torn cop isn't necessarily a black cop. That's part of the issue. It goes deep.
Yeah. I think we have to start kind of, at some point, we have to start training better. We have to start listening better. It has to go further back. And we also have to understand it's very difficult when I've just been a recent victim of crime. It was like a pretty scary situation. And, and I was furious and angry and scared and for days, and because my 9-year-old Amelie was nearly in the back of the car, so it freaked me out in a way because I was able to watch it. It was caught on video, and I was able to watch it 12 times from different angles,
Wow.
So I was able to analyze every single thing. And those guys took my car and they didn't even kind of look and see who was in the back. And often you can't see it because she's too little. She doesn't look over.
Right.
So I think about those things, and it sent me into a place of rage. In recent weeks, as I calmed down, and it's been a pain in the ass getting all the loss.
Getting it all together, yeah.
Yeah, just the car, the contents, because everything was stolen, personal papers, and bank accounts have been breached, all that stuff. Wow. But I'm trying at this point to look at what brings people to a point when they would do that. I think until we have to really try and get in and understand why that happens, you can't actually start to address it.
You're so right.
America is not in a place where it can do that right now.
No, we're so self-centered.
It's so polarized. You've got good guys, bad guys, and
it's also too. It's like the good guys. Yeah. The good guys are the only ones who can win, and the bad guys have to lose. That's what it's like. And so it's that thing of like, the good guys on any side of any issue in America are the bad guys on the other side of the issue.
Yeah.
And on both sides of the issue, the thing becomes we win, you lose, period.
Yeah.
As opposed to we're trying to figure out how to come to the center and make this work for both sides. We don't want to do that. Both sides are like, you lose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or you lose. Whereas like as a United States of America, nobody should lose.
Yeah,
you know
we
what I
should
mean?
be listening to each other. And it sounds so, excuse me, it sounds so kumbaya, but exactly how you put it, that like putting yourself in that, where do you have to be in order to do that thing? Right?
I was very,
trying to understand.
I was very encouraged by Biden's recent, sort of him talking about not wanting the next 4 years of his presidency to be about retribution for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But rather focusing, it's not to say, listen, you can have let's focus on sorting things out rather than,
because if
it's done.
The next 4 years, it's like, aren't we so glad Donald Trump isn't here? Well, yeah. Why didn't we want him here?
Let's get to the.
It's a lot. But I agree. Even coming back to your statement about the defund the police and how that's being manipulated and taken out of context. I think even on our side, like defund the police is not a good. Like that's not a good brand.
People get mad about that, right?
And we should be thinking about like how do we talk to each other? How do we say that in a way like
so they will understand?
And how do we also empathize? Like you can hear what defund the police sounds like. Like when you say defund the police and somebody who has it wrong what you mean tells you all the things that they hear, none of it is irrational. When you hear what they have to say for defund the police, yeah, that makes sense. But so maybe we shouldn't call it defund the police. Maybe we should call it what we mean, which is putting these funds into social situations that will help alleviate the stress of the police. Let's do that. Like, let's talk about it in that way.
Words matter,
Words matter.
So the kind of rhetoric that sometimes is being used I understand it. I understand the revolutionary aspect of that. I think in terms of what is the goal, when I kind of enter into a conflict situation, I go, what is the end result here?
Yes.
And it's like a good deal, right?
Oh yeah, but
a good deal is a deal where it's good for both people.
You have to understand business, and we aren't taught business. We aren't taught negotiation. Like that's a bigger, broader to understand that like life in its sense is negotiation after negotiation. That life in that relation with one another is negotiation.
But if people are only worried about me and what am I doing? How am I getting ahead?
But you get it. You can also get it like to be evenly yoked and to take it even more like heady. Like you get further when the two oxen are pulling together in the same direction. You don't get anywhere if they're pulling in opposite direction. Yeah. So you don't get anywhere if we don't pull along because we all inhabit this space. You won't actually get anywhere if you win, right? Like it's not. Life isn't it's not game 7. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get the trophy and then the season's over. Like, cool, but, like, do you want to end the NBA so nobody can play next year? Because if the NBA doesn't play then it doesn't matter who won the championship this year. We don't have a league. You know what I mean? The league still has to exist so that we can have Game 7 of next year and Game 7 of next year. But if you tear down the league, a.k.a. the union of what America is, then we don't have America for the next year and the year after that. If we don't all have it, if we don't all have it, we don't have it. Yeah. That's the thing. So
that's our highs and lows.
Yeah. But it is
in a nutshell.
It is why that this seems to be like palpably on the top of things.
Everyone's mind. Yeah. Not everyone, but.
And I've been inspired because I do write, and that is like my aspiration things, and like looking at like hopefully like things. Hopefully things that theaters are looking for. Hopefully things that people are looking to see. Like hopefully things that theaters will take a chance on. Hopefully what we will challenge each other with will be will show our actual principles. We'll show everything we said that we believed in during this time.
Right.
Then let's move forward on it. Let's really talk about it. Let's look at how we as a community didn't really help in the beginning and how we can help, what we can shift now and what really changes. How do we make things more equitable? How do we broaden the sense of whose stories are being told and what we're talking about and who can take it, who wants to, like, I'm black and I didn't really get into like, I'm hood, like I'm from the, I'm black, like we didn't do none of this. Like I didn't grow up in a place where people did this like this. And then I got to high school and found a niche and things and I always want like people who grew up like me, who talk like me, who I think there's so much that they would get, but I never see them really up there. Do you know what I'm saying? And so they never see themselves.
We're like
up there,
sprinkled in,
so they don't come. So they don't come. Like I also like I was like I've been on Broadway, in 3 different shows, and like none of them are shows like my brother would want to come see. You know what I mean? But like I also,
so it's like, how do we speak to?
I understand why my brother doesn't.
Right.
I understand why my brother. I understand why.
How do we speak to our own?
Yeah,
community?
there's like 41 theaters on Broadway, and there's not a single one playing anything that I would be like that my brother would spend money on a ticket to. And that's crazy because Jay-Z literally just sold out the Madison Square Garden just on a capitalist thing. Producers y'all are not making the right things. Yeah. Black people, we buy the same shoes over and over every year. Like, we spend money. We just don't spend money with you. And the reason we don't is because you're not.
We don't see ourselves.
We don't see ourselves. You're not talking about things that you're not. Or when we're up there, our experience is typically to like educate somebody else on what it's never
on the Black experience.
Yeah, you never get to just come see us.
Can I just be in love with this human being? Do I have to like? That's where I'm coming from. Is like I don't necessarily want to talk about my Black struggle. Like, let me talk about my struggles in love and life and friendship and relationship. Like, I am just Black. That's a part of me. You will see that when you see me.
Yeah, so many shows and things that you do. Like, when you are allowed to be Black, you're allowed to be Black because
you're struggling.
Because you're struggling, or because
because you're Black.
Yeah, and it's like I'm in love.
I think so many people want to tell stories, that are aspirational, rather than kind of the pain. It's not just cover over the pain. And I think we're trying to focus on that. We've got a new initiative coming up here, which at the Rep, which I'm kind of excited about, that focuses on that. Yeah. And obviously a lot of our commissioned work, our new work, is that's where we control a lot of our destiny for the future, is like focused on that. I knew we were going to run over crazy over time because there's never enough time. I mean, I did have a question about Cokes for 21, and I think you sort of answered that in some of that last conversation. Mm-hmm. I just want to take this moment, and I haven't done this publicly before, to make an apology. Like during the pandemic, and as somebody who's very much focused on making sure that our stages look equitable, from when I came here, I inherited an all-white resident acting company. We've moved to a place over the years of, where 50-60% of the people on our stage are BIPOC artists, and the plays that we choose and the writers, and we're expanding into directors and creative teams and thinking that much more. And this pandemic has done that. I loved the experience of directing Color Purple in 2014. I am grateful for it for so many reasons. I actually think I did a pretty good job on it. I cast you two, I put you two together, as we have just discovered. One of the things, though, that has really, as an artist, and where I stand in this profession, and especially as an artistic director as well as a director, is I've been thinking a lot about where I belong, in the room. And I think on reflection, I did, for all the right reasons. I felt like I directed Color Purple in 2014, and I was like, the original director on Broadway was white. It was white. There's creative white people on the creative team. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, as much as I love the experience, and I don't regret that part of it, all the good things, I feel I owe you an apology and the rest of the cast for being the director of that production. I don't feel I had a place in that room. And I wouldn't do it again, and it's been hard, and it's been a very long, thoughtful journey for me. I think there's a shitload of shows out there for me to do and be part of. I think there's shows that we can do together. And before I ask you my final question, is that I wanted to feel in a safe place to be able to do that, and when I was ready to do that and start talking about that. And I have not done that publicly because I felt this is the first time I felt with you, my friends, that I as close as you are. And I think people who love me and care about me, I know people do, and vice versa. It doesn't take away from kind of owning things from the past and talking about them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like, I wanted to do that today. And if it was the right thing to say and I felt it in the moment and how to express myself. So I look at that moment as a time of learning now, and how I move forward, how I inspire the rest of my tenure with this theater company and the rest of my work in my career, and who come after me. So I think that's a big lesson, one of the many that I've learned during this pandemic. So I wanted to apologize to you for any harm that I did cause, or inadvertently or otherwise, in addition to maybe the good things clearly that happened.
You ruined my life, clearly. I've
Some days he probably does mean that. Go ahead.
I want to say I appreciate you for saying that, Mark, and I think she and I would both have different perspectives on Color Purple, as far as it, like, who owns that show and what that show is and whose show that is, because even this might be a deeper conversation, but we get in the canon, we have shows that we call black shows, and typically they're called black shows because of the proponents of black bodies on stage. However, Color Purple is not a black show, besides it coming from Alice Walker. Do you know what I'm saying?
Like the content and what she wrote, but you're right. The people on Broadway, and that's the problem. That's the problem, right?
And we set up these things. So I think I appreciate you because I know that's a lot to level out, and also, like, no harm given, and all things
we love
learning.
you,
and also too, I hope it doesn't stop you, like, because I enjoyed working with you as a director, Mark, so like you have to keep working with black people now, like black people want to work with black people. It's but like certain checking the subject matter, and checking the things like absolutely, just like it might be inappropriate for me to direct certain things outside of my cultural aesthetic. It might I might not be the right voice to write certain things and put certain words in certain voices. For sure, I think we all have those things, but I think ultimately, with your artistry and with you as a director, what you did as a director,
and what you're doing as an artistic director too is important, and it needs to keep happening. We need to. I think your theater company is a theater company where I'm seen as just a woman, and I'm black, and that's a part of me, but I don't have to play this part, because she is black. Like, it's Jessie, and that's Jessie's vibe, and that's what Jessie does, and that's what we want, So I think that we need to see that more, but I do appreciate your apology and acknowledgement, because so many people don't do that.
No, I mean, I felt it was due, and I want to have more conversations that specifically focus on this, about where we belong, how we can work together. What are the things that we can work together, and where is it appropriate to tell story, and who tells them? For me, it's an absolute cut and dry situation that I would never direct an August Wilson play. Color Purple was more of a sort of.
Well, August spoke about that, though, right? Yeah. Like for August,
But that has still white directors directing major productions of it.
Right. Which is one of those things where you're like, why would you guys even do that?
It's like, but it's still happening.
It's like,
so I think I would love, I've been thinking about it. I was talking to one of your fellow cast members, Bethany Thomas, in Color Purple, about that. And I think we should put our heads together and maybe convene a meeting and talk to some folks here about how we take that to another level. Because I think it's the nuanced conversation that I think so many people are desperate to have and not sure how to get there.
Exactly.
So I think
you don't want to be uncomfortable. It's like,
and I think that's the safe space, though, too. I'm the type of person too. Like, I don't shy away from the uncomfortableness of a conversation. Like, I often believe, like, when we're getting uncomfortable, that's when we're getting to the meat of it. This is what we needed to talk about. But it is hard to just do that in any circumstance.
People shy away
where
immediately.
People are, and it is hard to think. So you got to find the spaces and then allow people to be vulnerable and to be open, be honest,
and to listen,
and say, I didn't know this, and also to take people seriously and to be open, to be like, I didn't know that, so let me take that in now as a new reality, and now let me work from this new piece of information that I've taken, instead of trying to debunk that piece of information with the information I already had. Instead of like, you're giving me this new piece of information, I'm going to use everything I can to try and to push it away, to go, okay, let me take on that piece, and then let's move from there with this new understanding. Now what do we create? And I honestly, that's where I'm hopeful, where if we're at that place where we can actually say, hey,
talk about it.
Yeah, here's this new piece of information. Now let's all move forward because there's expertise. Like so this is how we're talking about. Like I've never artistic directed anything, you know. So like the intricacies of what you have to do to put all that together, you're needed, Mark. You know what I mean? Like that, you know, until people can train and go things. But like then there's gonna be life experiences I've had, you haven't had, that might help you even reach a whole different audience of people and like that you didn't know you could reach, you know. So it's all of that.
Listen, there was no way that we three of us were going to keep it to a 25-minute discussion.
So sorry.
I'm going to put it out there as it is. My final question is, make a pitch for something you'd like to do together for Milwaukee Rep.
I kind of made a pitch early, but I think we would kill it in the last 5 years. I think. You don't want to do it?
I was looking lighter, like Little Shop of Horrors.
We could kill Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors. Audrey and Seymour.
We'd be a great Audrey Seymour.
Don't you guys want to see that?
I do, and I also, funnily enough, you know, when we for the last 5 years as a piece that constantly we go, we must do that, and I'm not going to lie and say your names will come up many times in relation to that project. So
I also low key have an idea to do the last 5 years, but not to do a new show. You know, we could do the last 5 years, or we could do something. We could do what the last 5
years. Can we pitch?
You know, we could write a new show. We could do a new. You know, like maybe it doesn't exist in the canon, and that's what's fun too. Like we could explore and we can make, but Little
Seymour
Shop
and Audrey, come on, this is happening.
Well, listen, I'm gonna see if they'll run the whole thing, because I think it's been a great conversation. I thank you for sharing your time with us.
I love you.
Having this such a it's been you lift my heart, and I appreciate it. And you know, you're just such a talented and awesome human beings, and you know, so just being a part of us and this Rep family is just
Milwaukee Rep.
Thanks for having us.
It was a really great time.
So you know, hopefully we'll get back up and running soon. And love to you both. Keep safe, and we will meet again, as the song goes.
We will. Love you.
Much love.
Love you. Bye.